What's up, BookTube? I'm back here with another video, and this one I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction from the types of videos that I normally do. And who knows, this might end up being something that I do a little bit more often, and that is I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and start to rank the books of some of my favorite authors from whom I've read multiple books. And in this case, I'm going to start with Riley Sager, who's probably freshest in my mind because I just finished reading his latest book. I shouldn't say just finished it, but I read it pretty much after it came out this summer. So that one's a little bit fresher in my mind. Plus, I've had enough success with Riley Sager in the past couple of years that for the most part, Riley Sager has become basically an auto buy for me. So anything that Riley Sager puts out, I'm pretty much going to pick it up because that's the kind of confidence that I have in my boy Riley Sager. So with that, let's get into it. Now, before I really get going, I want to say this. My ranking of the Riley Sager books is probably going to be different than a lot of people. I've seen some people who have done this on YouTube and they have some slightly different rankings, but yet at the same time, some people, I see some consistencies in terms of what they see versus what I see in terms of Riley Sager books. So with that said, I'm going to start from the top. My number one Riley Sager book is The Last Time I Lied. And this is a book that I've actually read the Riley Sager books in order. So I read Final Girls first, then The Last Time I Lied, then Lock Every Door, and then Home Before Dark, his most recent release. I have to say, with The Last Time I Lied, this is one book where I got to the end and I was like, damn, I just don't want this book to end. I was having that good a time with this particular book. It's set at a summer camp, which is something that is really good to me. And you start to get maybe a little bit of a closed circle trope right there. And you have a traumatic incident in the past, and then you have kind of jumping to the present time to kind of deal with the incident in the past. So you have that mystery from the past that you're trying to solve while you've got this drama going on in the present. And so this book really worked for me. I found some of the characters very, very interesting. I found the story compelling, and I was really curious to see how it was going to end. For some people, the ending was pretty far-fetched, but you can kind of say that in probably most Riley Sager books. I would imagine that that's true for probably most people who have read Riley Sager. But at the same time, I really enjoyed it. I don't want to give away the ending, but it does leave it a little bit open to the possibility that there could have been a sequel. But I thought I read on Goodreads that Riley Sager was not looking at a sequel to this book. But it was very interesting. So maybe a minor spoiler there for some of you. But I really enjoyed it. There were some things that I think people kind of nitpicked with it a little bit. Some procedural stuff, the way things work at a camp, that people were like, bro, that just would not happen. And I get that stuff, but it didn't trip me up enough to rank this my number one Riley Sager book. Now is where it maybe gets a little bit interesting with Riley Sager, because my number two Riley Sager book is Lock Every Door. And this one, I have to admit, when this was before I became a Riley Sager auto buy, and I wasn't quite sold on it at first. And again, I wasn't quite hooked on Riley Sager yet, but I started to look at the description, and the more I looked at it, the more I was persuaded. And finally I pulled the trigger and I bought it. And this again was the third Riley Sager book that I read, and I really enjoyed this one. I thought his writing actually probably got better from The Last Time I Lied to this book. I thought this book was I thought it was well written. Again, the ending, I think for some people didn't really work, but it didn't bother me. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting, compelling story. It did get kind of crazy at the end when you find out what it was really all about at the end, but I really enjoyed it. It hooked me right in the beginning, and I just had to endure through to the end. And it wasn't endure like slow burn, like, man, I'm being dragged kicking and screaming to the end. It wasn't like that at all. It was really actually a pretty quick read for me by my standards. I blew through it pretty quick, and it was just one of those books that I just really was excited when I got to the end, and I just couldn't wait to find out how it was going to end. And once I did, I was really satisfied. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Very, very good. My second favorite Riley Sager book. Number 3 on the Riley Sager list is his most recent, Home Before Dark. Home Before Dark, it has kind of the dual storyline thing. It's got a haunted house thing going on. It's got a mystery going on, and you got the past and the present kind of thing going on. So it was kind of a darker type of a story. In the sense of that really kind of dark mystery kind of thing going on. But I really liked it. Again, it was, this is by the time Riley Sager was an auto buy for me. And so I grabbed it and I was really excited to read it. It was really compelling. I found the characters to be pretty interesting. Found the storyline to be pretty interesting. Your part of the story is being told through a book that was written by the main character's father. And so at times it's like you're reading a book within a book, and that can sometimes maybe drain you a little bit. It did me a little bit, but at the same time the story was so compelling that I really was excited about it and was happy to really work my way through it and finish it, and definitely enjoyed Home Before Dark. And last but not least is the number 4 book for me with Riley Sager, but number 1 chronologically, and that was Final Girls, the first Riley Sager book that I ever read. Now, I'm really fascinated by the Final Girls concept because I'm a big horror movie fan. I really love horror movies. I've always been into horror movies. And so the Final Girl concept trope is something that's always been very interesting to me. So when I saw this, I just like, man, I got to get this. This is really interesting. Didn't really know anything about Riley Sager. Then again, probably not a lot of people did when he wrote this particular book. But I did enjoy this book. There's a certain darkness about this book as you're reading it that is kind of troubling, and there's some things that happen that are very, very troubling. And then the ending is kind of weird. Is the best way I can put it without giving it away. It's just kind of weird. But at the same time, it was very entertaining. I enjoyed it. Some of the characters were maybe a little bit annoying at times, but at the same time, the story was really interesting. And again, I am obsessed with the Final Girl concept. I just think it's really fascinating. So I was really happy to read this book. And mainly, I'm happy to read this book because it really opened my eyes to Riley Sager and 3 more books that I would later read from Riley Sager, all of which I would enjoy. So I've enjoyed all 4 books by Riley Sager. Riley Sager is an auto buy for me and probably for a lot of other people as well. So there you have it, Riley Sager madness right now. 4 Riley Sager books, 4 hits for me. Enjoyed every single one of them, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys did too.